Hello everyone, I'm Will from Hollywood Multipass, and I already know what you're thinking. Will, why are you reviewing this crappy movie? Didn't that movie suck? Isn't that why no one saw it in theaters? Well, I may have some surprising news for you. Based on A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs, who you might recognize as the author of Tarzan, this film is about American cavalryman John Carter who gets transported to Mars, a place of culture and technology and war. While on Mars, John Carter discovers he can do incredible things that the indigenous people cannot, almost superhuman abilities. Because of this, everyone wants him to join their cause and fight for them. The conflict between two warring cities on Mars has heightened, with John Carter reluctantly caught in the middle as he searches for a way back home to Earth and whether he should use his newfound powers to help those around him. I'm going to be honest, when this movie came out in 2012, I wasn't very excited about it. I had zero interest in some jock-looking dude ending up on Mars, and apparently I wasn't the only one. With the movie being one of the most expensive movies ever made, it currently sits at ninth at the most expensive list. It cost Disney $264 million to make this epic. Upon release in theaters, John Carter only brought in $30.2 million on opening weekend, ultimately coming behind to The Lorax, which took top spot. And by the end of its theatrical run, it only grossed about $300 million worldwide. Considering how much it cost to make and how much they made in total, that's not good business. Don't forget the marketing and advertising costs, which is separate, meaning Disney lost even more money with this project. John Carter is widely known as a box office bomb, a critical and commercial failure. Critics didn't exactly hate the movie, but they didn't love it either. But is the movie that bad? Does it deserve the reputation it has? In my opinion, no. It's actually a pretty good movie. It definitely doesn't deserve the harsh treatment it's gotten over the years. This was a surprisingly good movie. I was thoroughly entertained and impressed by the time the credits rolled. I really liked it. It's a fun space action adventure for the whole family. And yes, it is a Disney movie, so it's not going to be dark and gritty, but there are some surprising moments that made me think, this is a Disney movie, right? It takes its source material seriously and has some great moments that made me forget that it's a Disney family film. You can enjoy this adventure at any age, young and old. I loved how Mars felt. It felt so familiar. That was obviously their intention while making this. I also love how the cultures and the species interacted with each other. They're all sort of trying to get by in this wild west of their own. And how they all interact and treat each other, very much mirroring our own life here on Earth. The Martian technology was really cool in the movie. It felt like another civilization's discovery of things, very similar to us. I love how they treated their ships like pirate ships, nautical ships for the air. It felt fully necessary to be manned by a full crew. Very much like a real ship or a battleship or submarine or whatever. You need a full crew to man it, not just I'll push a button and go. So I really appreciated that in the movie. Going into the movie, I was very skeptical of Taylor Kitsch. Tim Riggins from Friday Night Lights in space? I don't know. But I'm happy to say not only did Taylor Kitsch change my opinion about him, his performance was my favorite throughout the whole movie. He has so much to bring to this character and how the character deals with certain elements, and Taylor Kitsch did an amazing job. I know it's very unlikely this would ever get a sequel, but if it ever did, I would want him to return. He deserves it. He did a great job with this role. Lynn Collins plays the Princess of Mars, and she's a great role model for young girls. No, seriously, she is. She's smart, resourceful, independent, and a fighter. She has a very big life-changing decision thrown at her, and she fights against it. Not because she doesn't want that decision necessarily, which she doesn't, but because she knows it doesn't really matter. She wants what's best for her people in the long run, not just some temporary solution to a big problem. I also just realized that her character, Deja Thoris, is a princess, which means she counts as a Disney princess. And she's definitely one of my favorite Disney princesses. Ha! Gay! In terms of its action and adventure, this movie feels a lot like Conan the Barbarian for kids. Yay! And that's not a bad thing. It establishes a new world to explore, and I would be very interested in going back to this world of Mars again. There's some really great actors in this movie in smaller roles. I always get getting excited when I recognize people from other things that I love. Actors like Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, Dominic West from 300 and The Wire, Kieran Hines? Ciaran Hines? If I've mispronounced it, I'm sorry. I am. This guy, he's from Game of Thrones and Justice League. You might recognize him from other things. He's in it too. James Purefoy from A Knight's Tale and Altered Carbon and Resident Evil, he's in it. Mark Strong from a lot of different things, Sherlock Holmes, Kingsman, he's in a lot of movies. Daryl Sabara, he's the little kid from Spy Kids, guys. Look at that, that's so cool. And it had the voice talents of Willem Dafoe, Samantha Morton, Thomas Hayden Church, David Schwimmer, and Jon Favreau. And speaking of Jon Favreau, there's a very interesting fact about him in this movie. Quick little history lesson, I promise it's worth it. I thought it was very interesting. So, this story has been in development hell since 1931, which is a very long time to be in development hell. Looney Tunes director Bob Clampett wanted to make an animated film based on the novel, but it never got the go-ahead, and has been a story thrown between studios and directors for decades. From Ray Harryhausen, who you might know from Clash of the Titans, Jason and the Argonauts, he was toying with the idea of making a movie of that, and he had interest in it. John McTiernan, famed director of Die Hard, Predator, and The Hunt for Red October, envisioned a competitor for current films at the time, like Conan and Star Wars, and it would have starred a young Tom Cruise. It never came to be. And that would have been awesome to see, especially with that director at that time and Tom Cruise being as young as he was and a big star at the time. Then fast forward to 2004, when Paramount Pictures hired Sin City director Robert Rodriguez to helm the project, until they decided to change hands and give the project over to Jon Favreau, who wanted to approach the project with the more practical and makeup effects and light use of CGI. But in 2006, Paramount decides not to renew the film rights and focus on Star Trek, leaving Jon Favreau to focus on another project for Paramount, which ended up being Iron Man, and we all know how that turned out. Okay, I'm going to be truthful here. The beginning of the movie is very complicated, and it's deliberate. Just to warn you, it jumps all over the place, and it's very hard to grasp what's going on. First we're on Mars, and then we're in 1881. Then we go back 13 years to 1868 in the Wild West, and then we end up back at Mars again. Too many timelines and too many locations are thrown at you at the beginning of this movie, and it could hinder your enjoyment of the film. But I promise you, once we're on Mars with John Carter, the movie picks up considerably. And the movie no longer jumps around like that anymore. And by the end of the movie, you'll see why they did that, and it'll all make sense. So please stick with the movie and don't give up on it in the beginning. I feel like they could have done those introductory scenes a lot better, but it kind of does make rewatching the movie a lot more interesting, since you know what's going on. Despite the beginning being a bit messy, the direction by Andrew Stanton is actually very well done. He gives you all the details you need to understand what's going on, how things work, who's who, and all of that. This was Andrew Stanton's first live-action film after his success with animation. He wrote Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., and wrote and directed A Bug's Life, Finding Nemo, and WALL-E. This guy was heavily involved in pretty much all the Pixar movies you love. Director Andrew Stanton has stated that he would love to go back and finish this trilogy of John Carter, and I would absolutely love that. He even shared on Twitter with fans the title of the sequel, which would have been called Gods of Mars. Because of the bad reception this film got when it came out, it's pretty clear Disney would never risk another heavy investment in this kind of project. Perhaps the marketing was to blame for this movie's failure? After just seeing it, I wish I had seen it in theaters, but I didn't. Even though I do love his performance in this, having a big-name actor or big characters that you already know and love always helps make money for your movie, even if the movie sucks. Maybe they should have changed the name? John Carter does sound kind of generic. Princess from Mars does sound better, but maybe they didn't have the rights to the name. I don't 100% know for sure what went wrong, but I do know after seeing this movie, it doesn't deserve all the hate that it got. I'm not saying this movie should have gotten an Oscar or something, or that's like the greatest movie of all time. I'm not saying that. But this isn't the worst movie by any means. And I, for one, was wrong not to support this movie on opening weekend. I should have seen this movie in theaters. But I'm not alone. A lot of people didn't bother with this movie at the time. So if you hear anyone say, that movie sucks, why would you see that movie? That movie's garbage. Don't even bother. They're lying. They didn't see the movie. They don't know what they're talking about. Everyone's lying about this movie. Everyone. What do you mean everyone? Everyone! With all the negative history this movie has, I'm going to try and turn the tides. Let's make this a cult classic. I'm giving John Carter a bye. It's a great movie that delivers on all the action and thrills and emotion you'd want from an epic space adventure. A fun family movie for your kids that you'll enjoy too. And that's my review for John Carter. Please support the movie. I saw it on Netflix. It's no longer there, so don't bother checking. I believe it's on Disney Plus now, so if you have a subscription, please check it out. If not, I'll leave a link below where you can watch it. I think you watch it on YouTube. You'd have to pay to rent it, of course, but I'll leave a link below. What are your thoughts on the movie? Why didn't you see it when it came out in theaters? I already told you why I didn't see it. Maybe you feel the same way. But anyway, leave a quick like on the video. Leave a comment below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Hollywood Multipass.